Hello! Your teachers decided that we should let you know what the differences are you will be experiencing in the math test this year. So we're going to look at some of the changes. In English Language Arts, you'll be having something called a common stimulus, which means that you will have one story on the left-hand side of the screen and multiple questions on the right-hand side. But they're going to pop up one right after another. You might not even notice that the question has changed, and you'll need to pay attention closely. Also, they're trying to provide an authentic reading experience, which means instead of having a new passage every time you answer a question, they'll stick with one story and about 3 questions instead of having a new passage each time they give you a question. This should be easier for you than what you've experienced before. In math, you'll notice that the calculator is a little different, and they'll be showing you this. And then there are 3 interactive items you'll be using: the drag and drop, the click and pop, and the hotspot. There's a woman on the next screen that will be showing you what these are all about. Let me find this for you. Here she goes.
So there's a few different categories that these new item types fall in. The first is a common stimulus item, which you'll find in your English Language Arts and Reading assessments. There's graphing calculator items, which are available in math. And then items that have some interactive elements. You'll see a few of those names listed here: the drag and drop, a click and pop, as well as a hotspot. Those are all item types that will be available in all the content areas. So let's take a look at a common stimulus item. So this example is for an informational piece, and it's on the white-crowned sparrow. And this is at a metacognitive level, where it's asking the students to view the text from the outside, getting at a depth of knowledge at about a level 3. So you'll notice a few things here. And first of all, it's important to remind students that this is actually a new item. Common stimulus allow you to read one passage that's longer and answer several items that we can use to address different goal areas. So when they complete this item, it's just a quick flash of the screen, and the left side will freeze with the passage, and the right side will just change the question. So at first glance, to many students, they react and think, oh, I have the same item. But if they look carefully, they'll see that it's actually a different question. So this longer passages, it might seem like, oh, that's going to take a lot more time. Well, in fact, it's showing that it will decrease the time to take the assessment, because they only are having to read one passage, and we're able to assess multiple items on that passage. So it's actually decreasing time. Overall, this is meant to provide a more authentic reading experience for students as well. So now I'm going to shift, and if you blink, you missed it, but we actually switch gears here, and we have a new question up on that right-hand side where our same informative text passage remains. So now this one is asking students to look at the item from the inside and using specific details from the passage to make an inference. This is at a depth of knowledge at about a level 2. The other important thing to kind of note out just from the technical side of it is the scroll bar. That will appear as it always has in math, and students will need to scroll when the passages do get lengthier. Finally, our third question on the same passage is a simple fact and opinion. And this is at a depth of knowledge of a level 2. So this example passage has provided us 3 different types of questions to more deeply assess the student's knowledge and, again, provide that more authentic reading experience. So here's a peek at what the graphing calculator will look like. Common Core calls for the use of technology. So it will remain as always. If we're asking students to do some computation, no calculator will be available. However, if it's more of a reasoning or problem-solving question, the calculator may be available. This TI-84 Plus will be provided for items that go beyond the basic 4 functions of our standard calculator. Now, you may look at this item and think, oh, I don't actually even need a calculator for this. And although that may be true, the language of the standard that the item was designed for allows it. So that's why the calculator would be available for these types of items. So now we're going to get into those more interactive items and the ones that the kids think are a lot of fun. So this first example, just as you'd think, is the drag and drop item sample. And this is simply where students are asked to put these visuals in order so they can complete a food chain. So again, although this is a science example, this is a feature that's going to be available in all the content areas as well. So they simply click and drag, and drop the items where they want. They can move them and rearrange them until they actually click the next button to go on. So this is a little more interactive and exciting for students, because think of this in a traditional multiple choice format. They simply would have had these 3 words listed in various order and had to choose the correct one. So now they can actually have a visual representation as well as the interactive piece. Next we have a click and pop item, and it sounds just like it is. Students would simply click, in this example, on the word that would best complete the sentence. And they can click again and the item will actually move out and a new item would be replacing it. So they can change the item as often as they like. This is a feature that's similar to many software programs that children are already used to using. And it's also already used in our Map for Primary Grades assessments. So it'll be an easy transition for those students that are moving into standard map. Finally, the last interactive item that we have is called a hotspot item, and that simply allows the students to click in multiple places on the screen and make multiple answer choices. So in this example, finding shapes that have at least one pair of parallel sides. So they can have more than one answer, and it just simply clicks to circle it.
Okay, so those are the changes that are going on in this year's map tests. Now we'd like to share with you some quick tips so that you are comfortable and ready to take the required tests. The first one is to read the question before reading the passage. This is an excellent tip because then you can read the passage with the question in mind. When you see something that helps you answer the question, it will be easier to figure out. Always scroll down to read the entire passage. Don't forget that scroll bar. It's a great idea to skim it to see how long it is and how it's organized. You can quickly look back through it when you think you've chosen the best answer as well. Read through all of the answers before choosing the best one. Just because A or B looks great doesn't mean that the next few answers won't look even better. Since you're looking for the best answer, you have to give all of them a chance at winning. Don't become frustrated when the passages get longer and more complex. That's a good sign that you're answering correctly and are being challenged with harder texts. Side note here, don't worry about your neighbor's test either. He or she may have the same passage to read, but the questions may be of a different type. This also makes it quite impossible to cheat. It will most likely backfire on you. Map tests are not timed. Please relax and take your time. Eyes on the screen, not on the clock, and definitely not on the people around you. You'll be here the entire period and you're not allowed to talk anyway. So practice persistence and put your brain to work looking at your questions. Everyone's test is different, and everyone has had different situations on the day of the test. So please take your time, because this is your test, not someone else's. Good luck, and please give it your best effort.